Alright, so hopefully yesterday wasn't too bad with the quadratic formula, because now we're going to use that quadratic formula to solve a bunch of word problems. Here are the answers to the quadratic formula homework in case you needed to see it. With this one, make sure you rounded correctly for these problems. And hopefully you remembered all the plus or minus. Ooh, this one you had to pull an I out. Interesting. Alright, again, mark the ones you have questions about and I'll totally answer them on Thursday. So here's an example of a word problem you're going to have to solve in your homework. I just picked kind of a random one that used some different formulas that you're going to have to use. So let's talk about it. The volume of a rectangular jewelry box, 4 centimeters in height, is 136 centimeters cubed. If the perimeter of the base is 24 centimeters, we need to find the dimensions of the base, which means we need to figure out what is the length. Whoa. We need to figure out what is the length and what is the width. So there are a couple things we do know. We know what the volume is. The volume was 136 centimeters cubed. And we know the volume is equal to the length times the width times the height, which was 4. If I divide both sides by 4, 136 is 34. And so I know that my length times my width is going to be 34. And so you're probably coming up with all these whole numbers that multiply to give you 34. However, the answers are going to be decimals, which is why we must use the quadratic formula. Sorry, Joe. I'm sure you were trying to figure it out. Okay, so what I want to do then is figure out what the length and the width is. We know the perimeter of the base, which is just a rectangle, is 24. We don't know the length and we don't know the width. Okay? But I could solve for the length or the width with this equation right here. If I divide both sides by W or L, it doesn't matter which one, I just picked W. We get 34 over W is equal to L, which means in my equation over here, instead of writing L, I could write 34 over W and get one variable in this equation, which means that I could actually solve it. So we have 2, instead of L, we have 34 over W plus my 2W. If I go ahead and multiply those things together, I get 68 over W plus 2W. We're really close to actually be able to do something. However, right now this whole thing's being divided by W, which is 0% helpful to our life and times. So if I multiply everything by W, something magical happens. We end up with 24W over here. These W's, that W cancels, which just gives me a nice 68. And we have plus W squared. If I get everything equal to 0, and I write it in the correct order, I have, it's minus 24W. Be careful. Plus 68. Guess what? All of those things are divisible by 2. So W squared minus 12W plus 34. Now I wish I could tell you that there was something that multiplies to give you 34 and adds to give you negative 12, but again, alas, there are not. Hence why we must use the quadratic formula. Okay, so you have written down, so we're trying to figure out W. So W equals, our B was negative 12, so it turns positive in here, plus or minus. You square 12 and you get 144. Plus or minus square, B squared minus 4. A was 1. C was 34. All over, and I'm just going to write 2 because A was 1. So W is equal to 12 plus or minus. I'm going to go ahead and just do a bunch of this in one step. I'm sure you guys have figured out you can just do it in your calculator. And so this is equal to 12 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2 all over 2, which is the same as 6 plus or minus the square root of 2. Now, for this problem, we kind of want to figure out like what the actual length is and what the actual width is, like not as a radical, kind of as a decimal. So this is the same. I figured out that the square root of 2 is about 1.4. So this is the same as 6 plus 1.4 and 6 minus 1.4. That's supposed to be minus. There we go. So that's 7.4, and then this would give me 4.6. So we know our length is 7.4 centimeters, and our width is 4.6 centimeters. And we have solved this problem by using the quadratic formula. Just remember, you actually have to get an equation that you can use the quadratic formula for, and I think that's the hardest part of these word problems. But work together with people in your class tomorrow. I'm sure you guys can get it done, and then I will see you on Thursday.